Bismillah. That one was already open. I put the one you left. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een, amma ba'd. Brothers and sisters, welcome to yet another part of this series, reading through the hereafter, towards the hereafter. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam states in a hadith, إذا مررتم برياض الجنة فارتعوا. قيل وما رياض الجنة يا رسول الله؟ قال حلق الذكر. When you pass by the gardens of paradise, then graze to your heart's content. Take as much as you want. So Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'in said, Ya Rasulullah, what are the gardens of paradise? He said, the gatherings of remembrance of Allah. And so the fact that we are gathered here for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, having offered the Farida Salah, is a great benevolence and mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala towards others. And it shows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants good for us, that He gave us the ability and the tawfiq. They say that if you find yourself making dhikr of Allah, know that Allah remembers you and gives you the ability to remember Him in order to remember you. When you find yourself making istighfar, then know that Allah has given you the ability to make istighfar in order to forgive you. It is not the case that you're making your own intention and your intention has nothing to do with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Your will can only be executed, our will as humans, can only be executed if it is in accordance to the will of Allah. And so this is a great blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, an opportunity to learn matters of our deen that will be means of our success in this life and in the hereafter. So far we've covered the 5 pillars of Islam, certain etiquettes about salah, about fasting, about zakah, about hajj. We looked at the recitation of Quran, dua, dhikr. Last week we finished the chapter or the sub-chapter regarding Salatul Tahajjud. So this was all worship, rituals and worship of Allah Azza wa Jal. Now we are going to enter into a new sort of part or section of this text, and that is customs. And so this chapter, at least today's halaqah, is going to be very sort of lightweight and easy to understand, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And we begin with etiquettes in relation to eating food, serving food, sharing it, and hospitality. So what are the etiquettes? These are, to nourish ourselves and to consume food is a necessity of the human being. Just like we talked about in the awrad, that sleep is a necessity of the human being. But the wayfarer to Allah Azza wa Jal, the one who is traveling towards akhirah, the one that wants to make every action an act of worship, will search and look for the recommended ways to fulfill his or her necessities. What does Allah command? What does Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam recommend? And so if we apply these etiquettes, anything that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us, and obviously he only teaches through command of Allah, وَمَا يَنطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَى إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَى. Everything that Rasulullah teaches his ummah is revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is always for the benefit of his ummah. There's worldly benefits and there are spiritual benefits, and there is ultimately the reward in akhirah. So he says we have several kind of etiquettes or manners while serving food to guests, either before eating, during it, and after finishing. So when it comes to food, you have certain etiquettes before eating food, certain etiquettes whilst eating food, and certain etiquettes or manners after having consumed the food. So before eating, he says we should wash our hands before starting to eat so as to secure their cleanliness. This is common sense, the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and an etiquette that one washes their hands, especially if they are going to eat with their hands, and they are going to eat with other people. They are going to share food. So anything that will cause disturbance to others should be avoided. Food should be served on a modest table fixed to the ground rather than a high one, as has been done by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah said that I eat my food like a servant, like a slave. I show my need to the food. Yeah. And so he says that you eat on something that is low, either on the ground, that is maybe more traditional, and a thing of the past. Today we all have, mashallah, tables and what have you. But if you're going to eat on a table, then something that is fixed to the ground and something that is low. The recommendation is one hand span should not be more than that, if possible. So a low table. That is what a recommendation. One should sit with his left sole, should sit on his left sole while erecting the right knee. So it is the tashahhud position, and simply just raising this one here. So the main two positions to eat in is either in tashahhud position or tashahhud position with the knee up. One knee up, obviously, to leave the space for the stomach, because if you put the left one up, you're going to have difficulty eating. This is a sunnah again of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it goes in accordance to the statement that I eat my food as a servant of Allah Azza wa Jal, and as one that is in need of the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is disliked to lean back whilst eating food, to recline. We're talking about a proper meal here. Okay, if you're eating crisps or chocolate, there's no harm in that. Snacks, it's not. But when you're eating a meal, to recline is a sign of kibr, yeah, of pride. And so reclining back or on the side, like Romans would do, is not an etiquette, or is not of the mannerisms of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when eating. Anything else on sitting? Can anybody? Okay. It is also disliked to eat while standing up. Sitting is a strongly encouraged. Again, when a person is consuming a sizable, decent amount of food and a proper meal. We're not talking about sweets or what have you. It is the same for drinking water. The custom of Rasulullah was to sit or to lower himself in order to drink. He has been seen drinking standing up, but those that just in times of need, if you like, or just to show that it is permissible. So one should sit on his left sole while erecting the right knee. Lying down is obviously a no-no. It's not healthy. Right? Trying to eat while you're lying down, you're putting your life in danger. Intending to strengthen oneself thereby rather than merely relishing food. Intention. Every act of the believer needs to have a good intention with it, in order for it to be considered an act of worship and in order to be rewarded for it. So I am strengthening my body for the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it should not be that I'm only eating to satisfy my desire and to relish the food. Such an intention is marked by satisfaction rather than satiation. Okay, what will tell you, he says, what will tell you if you are eating for the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to strengthen yourself for the worship of Allah, or if you are eating to fulfill your desire? He says the evidence is that if you're eating to your fill until there is no space left, and then you have a little bit more, then you can't claim to be eating to strengthen yourself for worship. It's very clear that you are enjoying the food, and that's what's pushing you to that extent. And he mentions the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam: a human being has not filled any vessel which is worse than his belly. Rasulullah says, the worst thing to fill is your belly. It is not good from a physical or health perspective. It causes laziness in worship. So from a spiritual perspective, it's not a good idea. Umar radiallahu anhu would advise that do not eat excessively, for eating excessively will do what? It will weigh you down and it will make you lazy, and it will not give you the strength or that energy. You will not have the energy to. And it's common sense, if you consume large amounts of food, you need time to digest, and during that time, while your body is digesting, your body does not want to do anything else, and the last thing that it wants to do is to stand up and pray some tahajjud or pray some nafilah. Okay, so Rasulullah said, "Ma mala'a adamiyun," that a human being has not filled any vessel which is worse than a belly. Enough for the son of Adam are some mouthfuls which can keep his back straight. Meaning, just enough so that a person does not become weak, does not weaken himself. But if there is no escape, meaning if the food is too good and a person is extremely hungry and they want to indulge, then he should fill it a third with food, a third with drink, and leave a third empty. Third for food, third for drink, and 1/3 empty. So these are the two recommendations of Rasulullah. The highest is a few morsels. The lowest is, if you want to indulge, then 1/3. And everybody knows their third. Yeah, they say that, some people were sitting and, they were invited and somebody was, mashallah, eating. And so someone said to him that, brother, Rasulullah said 1/3 for food, 1/3 for water, 1/3 for air. So he said, what do you know about my third? I know myself. So everybody knows himself, yes.
I heard that the way his seating position was, it was also the left knee was up instead of the right, and that was to sort of block his stomach.
To minimize, yeah, to minimize. So if you raise your left knee and you sit on the sole of your right foot, then your stomach will be restricted, and so you will not eat too much. Good point. Ramadan is the same.
No exception?
No exception. Ramadan even more so, because you have Taraweeh to come. Right? So if you eat too much, then Taraweeh becomes difficult. Then he says, man should not eat except when he is hungry. In that way, man becomes healthy or will remain healthy. So only eat when hungry. There is a statement, I think, of perhaps Sahaba, that they said that نحن قوم لا نأكل حتى نجوع. We are a people who don't indulge in eating unless we are hungry. وإذا أكلنا لا نشبع. And when we do eat, we don't eat to our fill. Yeah. So one should not eat out of boredom, nothing to do, going around, opening the fridge, just, you know, it's not, yeah, that's not the eating of somebody who is wanting to look after their health, but more importantly, wanting to look after, because food is a very important way to control the nafs. If you give the nafs what it desires in terms of halal, then it starts to extend or want to indulge in haram. Yeah. But if you restrict it in halal, in its food, in its drink, in its sleep, and talking and looking, the more you restrict your nafs, the more in control you will be. And the more you allow it to kind of just, and with the excuse that this is halal, then the nafs gets accustomed to getting its way, and then it gets out of control. So man should not eat except when one is hungry. He should also be content with whatever food he has and share it with others as far as he can. Be content with what you have. Don't look at who's presenting the food. Don't look at who is giving you the food or cooking the food. Look beyond that. What you have before you is your rizq, destined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you show displeasure or discontentment or dislike, then you are showing it to what? To the ni'mah of Allah. And the rule is, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. If you are grateful, Allah will increase, will give you better. What is the dua for eating? اللهم بارك لنا فيما رزقتنا وزدنا خيرا منه وقنا عذاب النار. That, oh Allah, bless us, bless the food that you have given us. بارك لنا فيما رزقتنا وزدنا خيرا منه, and increase it with what is better. وقنا عذاب النار, and protect us from the punishment of hellfire. Why? Because if a person is ungrateful to the ni'mah of Allah Azza wa Jalla, what does he say in ألهاكم التكاثر ثم لتسألن يومئذ عن النعيم. A person will be questioned about the blessings they enjoyed in this life. And so part of that is the food and the rizq that Allah provided you with. If you are ungrateful, then you are entitled to the punishment of Allah Azza wa Jalla. And then share it with others as far as he can. Rasulullah stated in a hadith that the food of one person is enough for two, and that for two people is enough for four, and so on and so forth. And so a person should not be greedy. So this is before eating. Wash your hands, sit in a humble sort of position, closer to the floor, or eating on the floor is advised. Taking the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, having the right intention. Ya ghulam sammillaha. Rasulullah's advice was, O child, take the name of Allah when you are eating. Bismillahi wa barakatillah. Or Bismillahi wa ala barakatillah. But the hadith says Bismillahi wa barakatillah. اللهم بارك لنا فيما رزقتنا وزدنا خيرا منه وقنا عذاب النار. And then eating only when one is hungry, eating maximum to 1/3, filling 1/3 of the stomach, and being content and showing gratefulness for what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided us with. Another etiquette that perhaps we can add is that it is recommended that food does not wait for us, but rather we are sitting before the food is served. That is again showing humility to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what He is providing. Right? So to sit down for food before it is served is a recommendation. Likewise, Rasulullah said, اجتمعوا على طعامكم يبارك لكم فيه. To gather at the time of food, instead of each person eating on their own, to get together whilst eating is what? A recommendation, so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places barakah in that meal. During eating, whilst eating, man should start eating with mentioning the name of Allah Azza wa Jal and finishing up with thanking Him. Bismillah, Alhamdulillah. And then if a person knows the dua, Alhamdulillah alladhi at'amana wa saqana wa ja'alana muslimin. All praise is due to Allah who fed us, gave us to drink, and made us Muslim. And so, before eating, protect us from hellfire. After eating, thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the blessing of Islam. So you see that the eating of the believer is reminding him or her of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is an act of worship. Man should also eat with his right hand. Kul bi yaminik. Eat with your right hand. That is the recommendation. Eating with the left is disliked, unless a person has a valid reason, why they are eating with their left hand. But generally, the recommendation or the etiquette is to eat with the right hand. Taking small morsels is recommended both for health, but also for the nafs, and also for as an etiquette when you are sitting in the company of people, right? Taking big morsels requires that you open your mouth wide, and nobody wants to look into your mouth whilst they are eating. So small morsels, and chewing them well, chewing the food well, is again an etiquette and a recommendation. We know that is, you help your digestive system. Because if you just, swallow without, then it's going to take longer for your stomach, and it will cause issues for you. So chewing the food well is a recommendation or an etiquette. He says, man should not take a second morsel until he swallows the first one. Finish what you have in your mouth, then extend your hand for the next one. This is all what? To remove that greediness that a person will have. Even if you are extremely hungry, wait to finish the food. Some people, they're chewing and they've got the next spoon is waiting, the next morsel. Especially when you are sitting in a gathering. The way you eat says a lot about your personality. Yeah. It says a lot about your personality. And so adab and good etiquette will make people comfortable around you. Yeah? And if you just eating like a savage, then it's not.
Like if it is one dish, but everybody has his own dish.
Even then, take small morsels. Take small morsels and chew them, and do not take a second morsel until one has completed the first one. He should not show dislike to any sort of food. Don't show dislike. So you are not responsible for, we all have likes and dislikes. What you are, so not liking any particular food, there's nothing wrong with it. Rasulullah ﷺ was presented with food which he did not like and he did not eat actually. So you're not forced to eat everything that you are presented, but do not show dislike. Don't do it verbally, and don't do it with your expression.
But if somebody asks, how's the food?
How's the food? You say white lie.
Yeah,
White lie. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, you can say I do not want to eat this. They say that Rasulullah ﷺ was once served dhab, which is a form of, I think, like a lizard, and he was in the company of Khalid ibn Walid radiallahu anhu. So when Rasulullah ﷺ was served this, he did not want to eat it. And Khalid radiallahu anhu said, Ya Rasulullah, is it haram? He said, no, it is halal, but it is not the customary food of my people, and I have no desire towards it. So Khalid radiallahu anhu ate, but Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not. And so this was the sort of mannerism of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You do not show dislike for two reasons. One is that it comes from Allah Azza wa Jal. But secondly, you don't want to break the heart of the person who is presenting you with the food. Make an excuse or eat from the other maybe dishes or other types of food that you have a liking for. So you should not dislike any sort of food, show dislike to any sort of food, and eat from what is near to him. The hadith of Rasulullah, Ya ghulam, sammillah, take the name of Allah. Wa kul biyaminik, and eat with your right hand. Wa kul mimma yalik, and eat from that portion which is closest to you. This was a young boy. He was sitting, they were invited, and he was sitting, eating with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he said, my hand was going all over because they had the custom of putting a big platter, and people would just join in the food. So he said, I was eating from everywhere. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave me this advice, that eat from that portion which is close to you. If the food is one, if there are different varieties, you are allowed to, he says, that unless there is a variety of food, there's different dishes, so you are allowed to take from each one. But in general, you should eat from that portion which is close to you. He says that one should eat with 3 fingers. The sunnah is to eat with the 3 fingers of the right hand, the thumb, index, and the one middle finger. 3. If it is practical to do that, like for example, rice, you can't eat with 3 fingers. So in that case, then, Moroccans, we eat couscous.
In Saudi, all you use all fingers.
Yeah, but rice.
All. Okay.
Even in Makkah, you do on like this.
Yeah. No. Yeah. One should use the fingers. The palm of the hand is not. It's not a nice. I know what the brother is referring to. Some people eat, and they eat from the palm of their hand, and that is not. It's not a good thing to watch. If it is customary in some sort of culture, then Allahu Alam. But in general, one should use their fingers. He says if a morsel drops, he should pick it up. This is part of showing what need towards the ni'mah of Allah Azza wa Jal. If a morsel falls from a person's hand or from the plate or what have you, pick it up, clean it, and eat it. If it is, again, possible. If you're eating outside and you cannot clean it, then it's a different matter. So if a morsel of food drops, he should pick it up. Likewise, he should not breathe into the hot food. Don't breathe to cool down the temperature of your food or your drink. People are and then they take a sip, because one is it is against the etiquette and the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But more importantly, you are doing what? You are poisoning yourself. What is coming out of you is what? It's not very nice, is it? And so you don't want that going into your food. So do not blow on hot food. Wait for it to cool down and then consume it. He should not also put his refuse with food. Allah. Okay. Like putting date pits with dates in one plate. So when you are eating food and there is something that is going to be thrown away, don't put it in the same plate. I know that it is the custom in some cultures, or some people have this habit. Let's say, for example, you're eating and you have a bone, you put it in your plate. That is against etiquette, especially if you are eating with a group of people. Have a different small plate or recipient for bones or a tissue or something of that sort. So what he's saying is you've got a platter in which there are dates. Don't eat the date and put the seed back into that platter, because other people are going to eat from it. So put it away. And he says he should rather receive it on the back of his hand than put it away. So you're going to eat in this way. The date pit has gone into your mouth. You're taking it out into your hand with the saliva, putting it down and then going for the next bit of food, and people are eating with you. So that should not be done. And the recommendation, I think many of you will have seen this video going around in just before Ramadan or during the month of Ramadan, that Rasulullah would eat the date and then he would get the pit out on the back of his hand and put it away and then reach out for, so that his fingers do not have any saliva on them when he is picking out.
Individual plates, then is it that needs to be followed as well?
No, this is obviously when you are, more so when you are eating with a group of people, yes, because it's off-putting for them, but for yourself, there's no harm. Man should not drink water whilst eating. It is not advisable to drink water while you are eating. From a health perspective, it's not advisable, because what happens is that when you are hungry, your stomach is preparing itself to receive food, right? So it has acid that will help you digest the food. When you drink water, you are diluting that, so the stomach is going to push in more acid, and that causes indigestion, bloating, and things of that sort. So water should be, if you want to drink water, you drink before food or after food, sometime after food. I think the recommendation is like 30 to 40 minutes after you have finished your meal, then drink. Especially drinking tea or coffee or things of that sort. Yeah? Give your stomach a break, let it start digestion, and then we're talking about proper drinking, like a glass, 2 glasses. You can take a few sips, maybe the food is too hot, too salty, too sweet, and you want to just take 1 or 2 sips of water. There's no harm in that. But drinking should be avoided. Yes?
When you were saying about the pips,
yes.
What about bones? Are you eating the bones? Would you take it?
Well, if there is a way of doing it, but it's not mentioned, because we know that Rasulullah liked to eat meat of the bone. Rasulullah enjoyed to eat meat off the bone, yeah, with his mouth. He would not break it off with his hand, rather he would take it to his mouth, and there is nothing to say that he had some special way of disposing of the bone. Yeah. So yeah. That's it. Eat the bone as well. Khalas. That fixes it.
Pepsi, Coke.
Not all of us have
Every
Nigerian
food,
Pepsi, Coke.
every food with this.
This is makruh. This is we're going easy. Yeah, I think in general, fizzy drink and what have you, these are not good things. But if you're going to have them, then they fall in the same category as water. So avoid drinking soft drinks whilst you are eating. I know it is the customary, people will have
Everyone should people drink.
Yeah, well, that's people. People can do what they like. This is the etiquette. If a person wants to follow, then that will be beneficial, inshallah. Yeah. But yeah, soft drinks should be, I think in general, we all agree that soft drinks have to be avoided. Even juices, actually. Most juices are just filled with sugar and additives and God knows what. So, to avoid is better. Yes?
You said that it's not allowed to blow on the food to make it cooler.
Yes.
So, but is it okay to, some people transfer it from a plate to a bowl?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. To transfer it from one cup to another, the tea, in order to make it cool. It's actually just blowing on it. That's not. Brother Hani, you had a question.
When you are sitting with in this group, where there's Muslims and non-Muslims who are sitting in a corporate environment, where you're going to attract more attention.
Yeah.
What would take precedence, doing the sunnah or adjusting to the custom of the environment? Yeah.
So the question is, for those who are listening at home, or maybe we'll watch later, the question is, if you are eating in a perhaps at your work with colleagues and so on, and so there are certain customs, for example, knife and fork, and sunnah is to eat with your fingers. You really should, I honestly think that when it comes to food, you should go with whatever your habit is. You should not change your habit because of the people who are around you. If you think that you are following the sunnah and the etiquettes are proper, do not concern yourself with other people's etiquettes, because then you are just confusing yourself. Yeah? So don't change anything in the way that you are eating, and perhaps you can have a conversation about it, and they can learn something from what you are doing. So I mean, they say that I don't know how strong this statement is, but they say that once a group of Sahaba radiallahu anhum majma'in were sent as envoys to a king, and they were invited to eat food. So they were eating food, and a morsel of food fell. And so this is a group of Sahaba. So the Sahabi radiallahu anhu automatically, went to pick up the morsel of food. So somebody nudged him and said, look, we're sitting in the presence of the king. He's going to think, these people, look at them, no etiquette, so on and so forth. And so he became sort of angry, and he said, do you expect me to leave the sunnah of my beloved for these people? And so if sunnah has to have, if something is sunnah, it should be loved and actually practiced as a faridah. It is not the same as a faridah, but it is still the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is still the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and so a person should not give it up if it is their habit. Yeah, I think personally that is my take on it, but it's open. I mean, if you wanted to change, let's say for example, you generally eat with your fingers, but now you are with your colleagues and you don't want to, you feel that it's going to make you uncomfortable or what have you. There's no harm as long as what you are doing and eating is halal. There is no harm. But personally, and that's my personal thing, I don't change my way of eating for anybody. You like it, good. You don't like it, still good.
The best way. We should consider the best way when you follow.
Absolutely. Especially if you are following the sunnah. Yeah, if you are following the sunnah, then that is the best way. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think it even goes, because if you are not going to follow the sunnah, then you might go against it, because the etiquette of the society now is eating with the left. So basically you abandon eating right just because you
obviously, because you have to use the fork goes in the left and the knife goes in the right. Yes.
Become left-handed then. Also, I'd like to say about the point of discussion, conversation also, it actually helps, because last time we had a corporate kind of non-uniform day more or less from the work.
Yeah.
So I went in with my phone, and then they started laughing. Oh, he's wearing his pajamas. So they said, you think he's in pajamas? Okay, I'm free. Look, you are restricted.
Yes.
So anyway, it became like a point of conversation.
Yeah.
And people are saying, okay, this is the way we dress.
Yeah.
And this is definitely not, this is not pajama. This is just like I was wearing a boat and top.
Yeah. So as foreigners, I think, and as people who have different cultures, there's much for the local people to learn. And we shouldn't assimilate, start adopting their way of life, because that takes away the whole, it's good to maintain your etiquettes, your customs, and maybe share them with those people, and the people will benefit. People will benefit. Because the sunnah is beneficial from a physical perspective. And a health perspective, it is beneficial for people. So we should get them to adopt our way, even if they don't adopt the religion itself. Right? So that is the brother had his hand was raised.
I asked already, but you have like food or some drink or something that's hot. Can you cool it down just by?
Yes, you can cool it down with your hand, or change, kind of put it in a different bowl or a different cup. It's not cooling the food that's the problem. It's blowing into the food. Yeah, that's the disliked. where were we? Should not breathe into the hot food. He should not. He should also not put his refuse with food. Man should not drink water whilst he eats. Likewise, man should receive the drinking pot with his right hand, look into it, and then drink in small sips. So when you are going to drink with your right hand the same way that you eat with your right hand. Look into the pot that you are drinking from. And actually, it is advisable that if you can't see into it, then pour the content into a glass. There has been like horrendous stories, people who just open a can and drink from it. I know we all do it, alhamdulillah, you know, nothing goes wrong, but every now and then, because these things are manufactured in the thousands, and so yeah, I'm sure there's quality checks, but you know, things can escape every now and then, and so looking into the water is a sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or into the drink, to ensure that it is safe for you to drink from it. So, and drinking in small sips, not gulping, again, the same concept as eating small morsels of food, small sips. Man should also breathe thrice while drinking, meaning taking 3 intervals while drinking, and not going, not drinking, especially when it is cold drink, because the stomach is, you know, at 36 or whatever, it's 37 degrees, and you're drinking something extremely cold, and you're just kind of chugging it down, it's going to upset your health and harm your health. So Rasulullah said, the hadith is, Allah's Messenger has been reported as taking breath 3 times when drinking. So Bismillah, 1 sip, Alhamdulillah. Bismillah, 2nd sip, Alhamdulillah. Bismillah, and then drink the quantity that you need. Rasulullah said in a hadith that one of you should not drink like a camel. This means that the Prophet ﷺ used to remove the pot away from his mouth and breathe. Yeah. So often what you see is people are trying to do the sunnah, but they're rushing it. So what they do, they Bismillah, and they breathe into the. No, it's Bismillah, and remove it, or at least move your head away so that you're not breathing out into the cup.
So finish your drink in 3 sips.
No, you don't have to finish it in 3 sips. You have to take 2 sips. The first sip, take a break. 2nd sip, take a break, and then the 3rd one you can drink. Yeah, you can drink as much as you want. Again, small sips are recommended.
So when you said when you're eating, if you have to drink during.
Drink with your right hand.
So do you think it's appropriate to eat with your right hand and also take?
Yeah, lick your fingers.
Your right hand?
Lick your fingers. Use a tissue. Yeah.
And wash the glass later on.
Yeah, the glass is there to be washed. If not, then often you see people they take it with the left hand and just place the palm of the right one, support it and drink in that way. That would be acceptable, inshallah. After eating, so he says, man should stop eating before reaching satiation, before you get full. When you stop, if you keep eating until you get full, then you are overeating. The reason for that is it takes a bit of time for food to travel from your mouth to the stomach. So when the stomach says, actually I've had enough, it's, the food that you've taken in maybe the last 5 minutes, it's all piling up. Yeah? And so for the sake of your health, then try to stop. And it is also rewarding, actually, to give up some, the way you give up some of your sleep for tahajjud, for prayer, for the sake of Allah. There's great reward in that. There's no denial, right? So when you eat food, and the sunnah is that you should eat less, we're not going to get to the point of, so Rasulullah said a few morsels. Yeah? That's going to take time. 1/3, perhaps that's going to take time. Where do you start? because we are creatures of habit, and so if you are accustomed to a certain amount of food and all of a sudden you consume 4,000 calories a day, and all of a sudden you're going down to 1,000 calories, you're going to be like walking around like a zombie. So the idea is to reduce. Imam Ghazali mentions this. He says, although we are expected to eat less, a person should not transfer from their habitual eating to excessively reduce their amount of food in one go. Likewise, sleep. You're used to sleeping 8 hours. Now you want to wake up for tahajjud, you're sleeping only 5 hours or only 6 hours. No, reduce it by your sleep 15 to 30 minutes at a time, so that it does not impact you negatively, and then you give it up. You say, oh, I can't do it. That's generally what people say. I can't do it. When they go on a very strict diet, limit their amount of food, they do it for 2 days, then they say, oh no, it's not for me. Yeah, because you went in too hard, right? So reduce. And the way to reduce is actually not to eat to your fill. Stop eating whilst you still have room for a few morsels. Yeah, you could eat a little bit more, but stop at that, and make intention that I am doing this to follow the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to strengthen myself for the worship, and not to get lazy. He should also lick his hands rather than wiping them. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would lick his, the fingers, obviously. Any food that remains on your fingers, to lick it. Again, this is a sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you shouldn't worry about the people who are sitting, because you're not putting your hand back into the plate. Okay, so this is the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to lick the fingers first. Any remaining food, again, is showing humility and giving importance to. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in a hadith that one of you does not know where the barakah has been placed. Right? It can be in that last morsel that you've left on your plate, and he's going to come to to that he says, furthermore, he should not leave any food remains in the translation says in the pot. So you're eating and then bring the pot and finish it. No, the sunnah is whatever food you have been served, or you have served for yourself, then try to finish that. Don't leave food in that plate, because generally, customary is once you've ate food, what happens? Whatever is left in the plate gets scraped right into the bin, because nobody wants to eat from that. Yeah, generally.
If you've taken more than
Don't take more. So this is the idea. Take small amounts and finish it each time. So it is.
And then you have to leave things.
Yeah. Then you should eat. Sunnah is keep eating until you finish your food.
Was it sunnah for him to wipe his plate clean?
Yes. Yeah, wiping the plate clean is also a sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then thanking the Almighty should be given at the very end. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that Allah Azza wa Jal is pleased when a man eats and thanks him therefore, and drinks and thanks him therefore. So, Alhamdulillah. والحمد لله الذي أطعمنا وسقانا وجعلنا مسلمين. الحمد لله الذي أشبعنا وأنعم علينا فأفضل. Many ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam dua. And then wash your hands after eating. Lick the remaining food, and then after that you can wash your hands. Okay. Sharing food with others. When sharing food with others, one should not proceed with eating before the elders. First, when food is placed, youngsters should wait, and this we should teach our children, that the eldest in the family should be one. Yeah, we should wait for the eldest if they are going to eat with us. Okay, if they're not going to eat, because there's no qualms, no problem. But the elder should either the elder in age, or the parent, or somebody that has maybe a religious position, or so on and so forth. Out of it is known as ikram, honoring of that person, that we'll wait until they begin to eat. So one should not proceed with eating before the elders. All participants should speak together or chat together in decent terms, not talking too much and not being completely silent. Okay, so a little conversation is good or recommended during eating, so that it's not like a funeral, but at the same time it's not a full-blown party. Yeah, so in between, and actually the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is important, and so any talking should always include the remembrance of Allah Azza wa Jal to make that a means of reward for us. Huh? Yeah, I am getting hungry as well. So one should not proceed with eating before the elders, and all participants should chat together in decent terms. Each of them should prefer his brother to himself, brother or sister to himself, and start eating freely at the same time. So prefer others, meaning that, you know, if there is something that is desired, then give to others, but at the same time eating freely. Don't make other people uncomfortable, right? So if you are shying away, then other people are not going to feel comfortable in eating themselves, right? So be sort of free in the way that you eat. Just give preference to others. Don't shy away. One should not glance at others eating lest they become discouraged. Don't look at the other person's plate, and yeah, that's the worst feeling when you're eating and somebody is staring at you. and it is custom in I remember visiting Bangladesh, and when you get invited, the person will put food out for you, and they just sit there watching you, and they will not eat out of respect. They say, when the guest finishes eating, then we will eat. But it makes you so uncomfortable. Yeah, they're just watching you, and they just keep bringing you more, and, you know, please have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So especially when you are the host, then, you know, eat food with your guests, because you are going to make them uncomfortable. Don't stand over them like Malakul Maut, waiting. That's it. Once you finish your meal, I'm going to take your ruh. Okay. So one should not glance at others eating lest they become discouraged. One should avoid vile habits such as shaking out his hand in the pot, or stretching his head over the pot while eating. The pot, he's talking about the recipient that you are eating in. You're eating rice. You've taken rice, you've got a little bit left in your hand. Don't put it back into the plate. You know, people do. Especially if you are eating with others. If you use your own personal plate, no problem. Even then, it's not, you know, yeah. Especially if it falls out of your plate and so on. But when you are eating with people, don't sprinkle your barakah in the plate. Keep it for yourself, he says. So one should avoid vile habits, whatever is considered. Generally, people are going to be put off the food. For example, burping whilst you are eating, unless it just happens naturally and you try to, you know, but out loud, it's not, you know, it's not something that others want to hear or see. Yawning, you got food in your, or you've got your mouth full and you're eating, and people can that's off-putting. Yeah, talking with your mouth full, or you're talking and bits of food that are spraying out of your mouth. So these are vile habits. Blowing your nose whilst eating food. Okay, you're eating extremely hot food, maybe your nose is running. Putting a tissue to your nose is fine, but you know, giving it the spring clean, and people are sitting. It's and I don't know how people do these things. Sometimes you're sat and you're wondering, like, what is.
A couple of these things even during salah.
Yeah, well, definitely during salah. During salah, Rasulullah said, you know, if you yawn, then put your hand to your mouth. You're stood in front of Allah Azza wa Jal, right? Loud burps, yawning, or blowing the nose. Okay, your nose is maybe you have so much khushu' and you are crying, and your nose is leaking. You know, it's not too much action to put your hand in your pocket, get a tissue out and put it to your nose, but to start making all the sounds and noises, people get, you know, uncomfortable. So vile habits should be avoided, and he mentions just one is shaking out the hand in the pot, or stretching your head over the pot while you're eating. You're eating with people, and every now and then you're going to have little bits of food are falling out of your mouth. And so what you're doing is you're putting your head over the plate so that anything that falls back into the plate. If you're eating on your own, fine. But if you're eating with people, then that will put them off. If one takes something out of his mouth, for example, a bone, he should divert his mouth. Don't do it in the face of people. Turn your mouth away or cover it, and take it out with his left hand. There you go. Take the bone out with your left hand. Something that has gone into your mouth, whether it's a bone or whether it's something, a seed or something that you want to take out, take it out with your left hand and move your face away from people. If you have to sneeze, move your face away from people. Yeah. In addition, if one eats a little bit of a morsel, he should not spit it into the pot again, I think. So anything that you've put in your mouth, do not put back in the plate. So if you have to remove something, put it in a tissue or something. Okay. Serving food to your guests, brothers or sisters. Serving food to others is commendable. To serve is commendable. Imam Ali, karramallahu wajhahu radiyallahu anhu, said, collecting brothers around food is better for me than setting a slave free. Because here you're doing a sadaqah, but at the same time you're eating the food together, and that's going to increase the feeling of brotherhood and unity. They say that Khaythama used to prepare tasty food and invite Ibrahim al-Nakha'i rahmatullah alayh and al-A'mash rahmatullahi alayhima and say, would you eat? I have prepared it for you. So to cook for your guests and to invite them and to share the food with them is commendable. Then he would serve whatever food he had. One, however, should reserve some of the food to his family. Don't put everything when you have guests. Don't put everything out. It may be that the guests will eat everything and you are left without. As a host, do not eat everything that is put out to you.
As a guest.
Yeah. Sorry, as a guest. Obviously, as a host. As a guest, don't eat everything. Keep in mind that it might be a custom. In some cultures, it is the custom that the women, children will not eat until the guests have had food, and then whatever, if there is anything left, then they will eat from it, and they see that as honoring the guest and that there is barakah in that food. Okay, so the host should always put something to the side for people who are not going to partake in the meal. For example, you've invited your friends, or it's a gathering of men. Obviously, women are not going to eat. The women of the house are not going to eat with the men. Then leave a little bit of food on the side for them before actually eating. Yes, reserve some of the food for his family. A visitor should not suggest a certain kind of food in case he is asked to choose between two kinds. He should opt for the less expensive one. Okay, so somebody is inviting you. Don't say biryani, yeah, or kabuli palau or couscous. Don't. If they've told you that they're inviting you, accept their invitation and don't make. We have a saying in our sort of dialect, Moroccan dialect, that the guest should not make any conditions. That I want to eat this, I want to eat that. Yeah. Don't make conditions. And the host should not be miser. They should present the best that they can. Okay, so a visitor should not suggest a certain kind of food, because that you may be putting a burden on the person. Rasulullah ﷺ, walima, for his wedding, at times he served meat, and other times he served bread with vinegar. Right? So it depends on the situation of the person. And whatever is presented to you, you should be grateful and thankful. Don't look down. Because again, we said, look at whom it is coming from. It is not coming from your host, it is coming from Allah Azza wa Jal. And they've done the best that they can. And so do not consider yourself, should not have any sort of expectance. Yeah? And if you are asked to choose between two kinds, you should opt for the less expensive one, unless the host is pleased with his choice of the expensive one and hastens to bring it. Okay, if you're given a choice, brother, I'm going to invite you, what would you like to eat? Mention something that's easily made, it's not going to cost a lot. But if the person pushes you, or you know that, alhamdulillah, they're comfortable, and it's going to make them happy that you ask for something special, then by all means. Yeah? Oh, sorry. Okay. So they say once Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi visited Az-Za'farani rahmatullah alayhi, who used to write a paper of the daily food and give it to the maiden. So he had like a cook, and he would put down what he wanted. And so when Shafi'i radiallahu anhu rahmatullah alayhi came and he was invited as a guest, this person was giving the order in, if you like, and Imam Shafi'i took it from his hand and he added something, and he was very pleased. He's using this as an example to say, you need to know your guest, your host, sorry. You need to know your host. If they're comfortable, they're close to you, and they will be happy. For example, in certain cultures, that when food is placed out, they want you to finish all of it, and they get happy. And if you don't eat well, then they're going to be upset. So they say that once one of a great sheikh invited some people for food, and he put like all different various types of food, and somebody, you always have people who want to make objections, and he said, "Ya Sheikh, this is israf. This is israf. This is excessive. Too much variety." Rasulullah only used to eat one dish at a time, one main meal at a time. I know our South Asian brothers are thinking, what happens to the fish and the dal and the and the meat and the chicken? And so this is it is what just a recommendation. It's not an obligation in any way, but generally Rasulullah would eat one main meal, and he would eat things that will accompany it, like some dates, some bread, so on and so forth. But he would eat one main dish. How did we get to this? Yes. So when he placed the food, and somebody objected and said, "Ya Sheikh, this is israf. This is too much. It's too much." So the Sheikh said, "I am a host. The command that is directed to me is to do ikram, is to honor my guest to the best of my ability. And the command to you is not to make israf. You eat 1/3. My responsibility is to present what I have. Just because I've put it out there doesn't mean you have to eat it all." Yeah? And so this is the hikmah. They say that, I think, Imam, if I'm not wrong, one of the A'immah, I think it was Imam Ahmad visiting his teacher, Imam Shafi'i, or it was Imam Shafi'i visiting somebody else. Anyway, so the host, who was a great sheikh himself, said to his daughter that, for example, tomorrow we're going to have a great guest, and he's a great wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so make sure you take care of him. So غالبا it's Imam Ahmad. So Imam Ahmad,
Imam Shafi'i visiting Imam Ahmad.
Imam Shafi'i visiting Imam Ahmad. There you go. Jazakallah khair. So it's the teacher visiting the student, if you like. Okay. So what happens is that time for food came. MashaAllah, he ate a great deal, and then all night he was sleeping, and then in the morning he just got up and prayed salah. No wudu. Yeah. So the daughter of Imam Ahmed said to him, yeah, he said, this is a great sheikh, this is what I've seen. What I know is great personalities and saintly personalities. They eat little and then they wake up at night for tahajjud and they definitely make wudu for salah. It seems like your friend has forgotten. So Imam Ahmed went to his teacher and with adab he said, look, I have some questions, my daughter has asked this. He said, Rasulullah said, the food of the believer is shifa. طعام أخيك المسلم shifa. It is a means for cure. And this is a pious household. And so I was eating to gain as much barakah and benefit from your food. This is why this is not my habit. So I ate more than I usually do. While throughout the night, obviously I ate too much, so I couldn't sleep. I was awake throughout the night, but I was not asleep, and I was not just just dreaming or in useless thoughts. Rather, I was making hypothetical questions, creating questions, and answering those questions. And the Rasulullah says that to go to the masjid and to learn one chapter of knowledge is better than offering 1,000 rak'ah. And since I had not slept all night, I prayed with the wudu of, I prayed Fajr with the wudu of Isha. Okay. How did we get here?
The guest should not make demands.
Yes, the guest should not make demands. And if you are given the option between two things, then choose the less expensive one or the one that is not going to be difficult to prepare, unless that person is going to be pleased, inshallah azza wa jal. Okay, the next part is when a group of people are eating, he says, knowing that some people are eating, one should not approach them. You have not been invited. Don't make people uncomfortable. Yeah? No gate crashing weddings unless you're the imam, because everybody wants to see the imam.
He looks like he eats people.
Huh?
He touched on his nose.
Yeah.
He's
He's cracking up. Okay, so when people are eating, one should not approach them. If you have not been invited, don't approach people, and actually do not even let them see you standing around hovering around hoping that you are going to be invited to the food. This is against etiquette. However, if he unintentionally comes across them and they invite him to share their food, he should consider it prudently. Think about the invitation and think about why they are there and how much food there is, right? And so maybe in the first instance you can respectfully decline, and if they insist, then by all means share. If they shyly invite him to eat, he should not eat. If you can see that they're just being put on the spot now and they're inviting you, but really there isn't maybe enough for you, or you weren't expected, then do not eat. Otherwise he can share food with them. If it happened that one visited a friend who is out and food is offered at his place, one can eat if he is certain that his friend would be pleased if he eats of his food. Let's say, for example, you go into somebody's house and they're not present. For example, you've gone to your brother's house or to your friend's house, you had an appointment or meeting, or you went for something and you were presented with some food and the person is not present. The person you have come to visit is not present. If you know that they are not going to mind, because we know this from the Sunnah of Rasulullah, that he went out with Abu Bakr and he went to the house of a Sahabi. When Umar came out, he was hungry. Abu Bakr, he met Abu Bakr, and they all met Rasulullah. Rasulullah said, let us go to this Sahabi's house, Ansari. So they went to his house. When they arrived there, he wasn't present. His wife said, Ya Rasulullah, he's gone out and he's going to return. But she presented them with some dates and things like that, and Rasulullah ate the food. And when the Sahabi came, he was extremely happy, and then he joined Rasulullah for the food. He actually sacrificed an animal. And so if it happened that one visits a friend who is out and food is offered at his place, then one can eat if he is certain that his friend would be pleased if he eats of his food. If not, then he should refrain and wait until that person comes. Okay, very quickly, we just have one portion. Hospitality. One should invite righteous people. Some early Muslims said you should eat of the righteous food and vice versa. When you invite people, wedding, aqiqah, some sort of party, celebration, whatever, Eid, and these things, invite righteous people. Because, firstly, being in their company is good for you. Then, feeding them that food, if you make the right intention, is going to give them energy, and they are going to utilize it in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You will be rewarded. And this goes out to our brothers and sisters, whoever is, when you're cooking a meal, even for your family members, the intention should be that my family is going to eat this food. Number one advice is, when cooking, the name of Allah. Begin with Bismillah. As much dhikr as possible will cause the food to have nur. This is why the elders discourage eating prepared meal from outside, because they say that food is like a cadaver, like it's empty of any blessing. Right? That person is in ghafla, in a state of heedlessness. They're not aware of Allah Azza wa Jal. They're just cooking to make money, feeding to make money. So that food is not going to be spiritually good for you. Health-wise, no problem. But spiritually, is not going to be beneficial. But food that is, it's cooked with Bismillah, recitation of Quran, dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the intention that these people are going to eat my food, strengthen themselves, and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are going to be rewarded for that. So invite the righteous people to your food, and vice versa, meaning eat the food of righteous people, because it's not going to be doubtful. Yeah. In addition, one should look for the poor rather than the rich, and serve them properly. Rasulullah said that the worst food is the food of the walima. The people who are not in need of it are invited to it, and the one who are poor and needy are turned away from it. And so invite those who are poor and needy. Rasulullah had the custom, if he was invited, then he would call out for Ahlul Sufa, Sahaba radiallahu anhum, who was poor and needy, because they are you will be doing two things. One is getting them close to you, feeding them, and fulfilling their need. So, and then serve them properly. Just because you are inviting poor people doesn't mean that you, when you have an honorable guest, you honor them. And if you're inviting somebody, there it is, just eat. Yeah, people do that back home. Yeah, they do invite the poor people, but then this, for the honorable guests, there's waiters and so on, and those people is just like, just give them, take whatever you want. So, only rice. He should also invite his friends and acquaintances. Invite your friends and the people that you know. By serving food to others, one should seek adherence to the sunnah, show intimacy, and try to please others rather than ostentation. Seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This thing is perhaps not in the current society or culture that we are living in, but we know back home, what you present to people is like, and often sisters will say, a friend has come for whatever reason, and if you say, whatever there is, just present it, and say, no, it's shameful, and I only cooked something that's simple, quickly made. What are people going to think? It's for the sake of Allah. Let them think what they want to think. They're not harming you, they're harming themselves. Your intention is good, and so you should not do it in order to show off. One should also invite those who can hardly respond to the invitation due to one reason or another. Should not. I think this is a mistake. Don't invite a person that cannot answer your... Don't put them in a position where, for example, you know that somebody dislikes somebody else. And one of them is going to feel uncomfortable. Don't invite one. If you can don't invite both is better, so that The other one doesn't say, oh, well, he invited him, he didn't invite me, she invited her, she didn't invite me. Don't invite both. Khalas. This is what Allah does. Yeah? When the time of Ramadan comes, Allah says, give everybody the reward. Those two, don't give them reward. They don't speak to each other. When they fix their problem, then we will give them their reward. Yeah? But essentially, don't invite somebody that's going to become uncomfortable with the invitation. Right? Don't put people in that position. As for responding to an invitation, if it is for a marriage banquet, meaning a walima, one should accept it. One should accept. It is wajib to accept the invitation to a walima. That is wajib. Because you celebrate with your brothers and sisters. When invited on the first day, one should not accept the rich's invitation only, but also that of the poor. Yeah? Don't only accept the invitation of people who have a standing in society, and then somebody who's poor comes to you and you just kind of, nah. No. You should accept both of their invitations in the same way. If he happens to be fasting when he is invited, he should also respond to the invitation. This is if you are fasting a nafil fast. If it is an obligation, you can't. Obviously, Ramadan, nobody's going to invite you in Ramadan. That's what everybody's like. No, but let's say, for example, you're making qada of Ramadan. You can't break that fast. Yeah? You were sick and you're making up. If it is an obligatory fast, you can't break it. If it is a voluntary fast, then you can break it. And it is recommended, according to some, actually, it is an obligation to make up. Because once you've made intention to do a voluntary deed, then it is incumbent on you to finish it. So if you couldn't, because you were invited, then you should make up that voluntary fast. If his fasting is voluntary, and he knows that his host will be pleased by sharing his food, he should break his fast, voluntary. Furthermore, if he knows that his food is forbidden, he should not accept the invitation. The food is forbidden, or the means, the earnings of that person is forbidden, 100% all from haram. If part is from haram, other part is from halal, then it's okay. And you'll make intention that, Ya Allah, I consider that I am eating from the halal, that this is my Muslim brother and he's not going to present me with haram. But you know somebody has haram earnings, then should not accept the invitation.
When you break your voluntary fast that day, then you are doing it next time?
Yes, make it up. Yeah. Make up the fast. Yeah?
If this fast was Thursday and
yes.
And
Monday as well, yeah.
And the next week also you're going to be fast?
No, fast another day. Fast Wednesday, fast Friday, fast Saturday, Sunday, yeah.
If you invite somewhere and there is a music, what do you do?
It's coming. The same ruling applies in the case of using prohibited gadgets or serving food with music. You are permitted to decline. You can decline on that basis. And don't concern yourself with what people say, oh, well, they're going to get upset. And explain it in the best possible way, but you can decline the invitation. If there is any haram, taking part, a mixed gathering, women are not going to be in hijab, so on and so forth. If you can avert your eyes and attend, and it's not going to harm you, and you're not going to sin, then you have the option. So a person should use their hikmah in music. Yeah, you can't do it with music, so you have to think about that, yes. Likewise, one should not accept the offenders or the sinners or the oppressors or the tyrants' invitation. Somebody that's wronging people should not accept their invitation. Accepting an invitation, food should not be the end, but rather to abide by the Prophet's sunnah. When somebody comes to you, rectify your intention. I would like to invite you to my aqiqah or to my walima, or I have inshallah guests at home. I would like to invite you. Your intention should be, I am fulfilling the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the command, honoring brothers and avoiding misunderstanding due to declining. Okay, declining an invitation, one may be arrogantly presumed as wrongly presumed as arrogant, meaning that if you decline and you don't explain why you have declined, you have another commitment or engagement, then explain it, because people are going to feel that you are proud and arrogant. In the same vein, one should behave modestly amongst the fellow guests. Don't expect special treatment. One should avoid should also sit where his host guides him. You've got a table number, go to that table. Don't, start making your own rules. One should also avoid glancing at food when served, lest it may be taken as a sign of greed. Where it's going to be. So don't extend your gaze to the food before you're looking at the waiter, what he's bringing. Just wait for it, it's going to come to you anyway. Okay, manners of serving food to the guests. Food should be served promptly as soon as the guests arrive and rest. Okay, shouldn't take too much time. People have been waiting. You've told them, like Brother Suleiman has said, Aisha, after dinner, don't eat too much. Right, so people, maybe they've missed the meal, maybe they're extremely hungry, maybe they have, places to go, things to do, and you've got them there waiting, suspense. Fruit should be served first, anything sweet should be served first, especially fruit, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions it before meat in Quran. Then meat is served after, then other food. Finally, the dessert is served. At the end, one drinks water, washes his hands with warm water. All available kinds of food should be served. Guests should be afforded ample time to be satisfied. Yeah. Don't, okay, starters is over, now main meal. Let people eat comfortably. When you see that they've removed their hand, then take the food away. Food should be quite enough. Don't serve too less. The host's share of food should be set aside before it is served to the guests. After eating, if a guest seeks departing, the host should see him out with a cheerful smile and kind terms. Not, there's the door, I'm too busy eating. So it is because they've honored you, they've accepted your invitation, they've given you your time, so you should see them out. And some customs, actually, some cultures, they will see you out with a gift, something small like that, especially in weddings and so on. And that is a good practice. So if a guest seeks departing, the guest should seek permission. Yeah? They also say, if you eat with a group of people and you need to go away from there, don't just walk away. Ask for permission, because you're going to make people uncomfortable. Okay. The guest too should, out of his modesty and good manners, be satisfied and contented, even if he finds something wrong. He should not depart unless the host lets him go. Okay. And the guest should be mindful of the time he stays with the host. Don't overextend like Imam Usama does with his halaqah. Okay. Subhanallah bihamdi, subhanakallah bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. I did not want to stop in between. I wanted to make it a complete session. Sorry for taking up too much of